Papua New Guinea is a country that is packed full of active volcanoes. With a count of 94, it has the most active volcanoes of any other country in the South Pacific. While Australian couple Phil and Linda McNamara were on vacation there in 2014, they had heard that there would be some possible volcanic activity happening near Mount Everver, one of the country's most active volcanic sites. Jumping at the chance to see it, they got on a boat to see if they could get a closer look. They got their wish and captured the mountain erupting. This volcano has a history of eruptions. Some of them have been very violent and deadly, most notably in 1994 when Mount Everver erupted and buried the nearby town of Rabaul in ash. Luckily for the McNamaras, this eruption wasn't quite as large. Nonetheless, it was still amazing. The initial explosion sent an ash cloud spewing upwards as the explosion's shock wave tore across the water. You can even see the clouds above start to move as the shockwave pushes them away. 12 seconds later, it hit the boat with a loud bang. Even as the shockwave passed, the film continues to roll, capturing the mountain in all of its glory. Indonesia is no stranger to volcanic eruptions, home to one of the deadliest volcanoes in history, Mount Krakatoa. This country is a tectonic and seismic hotspot in the Pacific. One of these many volcanoes on this island erupted on August 9, 2020 in spectacular fashion. Luckily, the locals who were not hurt were able to capture it on video. Sinabung is located on the island of Sumatra. The footage taken from one of the nearby villages shows what is actually the second eruption of the volcano. This mountain's volcanic activity actually started the day before with a smaller eruption. Knowing that Sinabung is still volatile, the government ordered all residents to stay at least 3 kilometers away from the mountain. Just before the footage started, the mountain erupted violently, with some residents describing the sounds as a loud clap of thunder that lasted for over 30 seconds. Then the video shows a huge cloud of volcanic ash spewed 3 miles into the air, turning the sky dark. Ash was spread across hundreds of miles of land, covering cities and villages in a thick layer of ash up to 15 miles away. It was the first time Mount Sinabung had seen any activity in over a year. Chile has its fair share of active volcanoes as well. Luckily for this country, the mountainous regions where these volcanoes exist are usually sparsely populated. On April 23, 2015, an unknown tourist who is staying in the nearby town of Puerto Varas captured the eruption of Calbuco volcano. Although the camera only started rolling after the initial blast, there is still plenty to be seen. The ash cloud is visible miles into the air, with no signs of dispersing. As you hear the low rumble of the eruption, the camera zooms in towards the caldera, providing an incredible view of the event. The video ended shortly after, but the eruption itself continued for some time. Later that afternoon and evening, the eruption went from being mostly ash and gas to rock and lava. Everything was destroyed for miles around the volcano, and the landscape was illuminated by the orange glow. Even more spectacular were the reports of lightning sparking in the ash clouds during the eruption. Because there were very few people living in the vicinity of Calbuco volcano, there were no deaths and very little property. The Philippines, another volcano-rich country, in which eruptions are not an incredibly uncommon occurrence. On one of the many islands around the Philippines lies the Taal volcano. Although it had been active in recent history, the volcano had laid quiet for 47 years. But that changed. On January 12, 2020 that day, the Taal volcano exploded with tremendous force, sending gases, ash and lava high into the air. But this would prove to be a bit of an unusual situation in the days and weeks that followed. The eruption dropped a layer of unusually wet and heavy ash on the surrounding landscape. This killed nearly every bit of vegetation that it touched. After 2 months, the once green island looked more like the landscape of a rocky desert. Or the moon. Volcanic ash isn't made from the same soft and fluffy material that forms when wood, leaves, or paper burns. Rather, this ash is made up of small, jagged pieces of rock and glass that are incredibly hard, abrasive, and do not dissolve in water. So when it lands, the effects can be disastrous for plants, animals, and humans alike. The tall eruption was especially problematic because the ash became wet enough to turn into something like mud before drying and hardening into a cement-like state. Sadly, this particular eruption was not without fatalities, and many nearby economies also suffered a great deal. It's unfortunate how quickly Mother Nature can impact an area or person's way of life. In this video, we see a group of hikers walking along what is thought to be the Volcan Fuego, an active volcano near Los Pajales, Guatemala. As seen in the film, the mountain blows a very small amount of ash, seemingly away from where they are hiking. They had no doubt that they had captured a once-in-a-lifetime shot, so they started celebrating and enjoying the moment. Lucky for them, the explosion wasn't bigger. In the video, it seems that the eruption was only a couple of hundred yards away from where they were hiking. Maybe it was unknown to them. But earlier that year, that mountain exploded in an eruption that was Guatemala's worst volcanic disaster. In more than a century, the eruption lasted for 16 hours, burying nearby villages in ash. In total, 62 people lost their lives, and thousands more were displaced. So, although these hikers were able to escape unharmed, they were incredibly fortunate that things did not get worse, as it had been a few months prior. The volcanoes in the Central American region are incredibly volatile and do not yield for anything. Mexico. Popocatépetl volcano. Mexico's Popocatépetl volcano, which erupted in 2013. Popocatépetl erupts every few years. Nearby residents have learned to stay well clear of this volcano. Japan. Mount Shindake. In Japan, which covered nearby towns in ash and dust for weeks. Luckily, the volcano is situated on an island, so most of the magma floats safely into the ocean below. Mount Kashino-Era-Bajima erupted in Japan. They quickly take cover behind rocks to shield themselves from the elements. Costa Rica. Turrialba volcano erupted also last year. No one was reported to have been killed, but nearby airports and facilities had to be shut down for days until the ash subsided. USA. Mount St. Helens. Perhaps the most famous of all volcanoes, Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980 and 57 people died in this eruption, making it one of the most deadly volcano eruptions in modern times. Thank you for watching.